What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Scevoli Tonight Show, Scevoli Tano Tonight Show. I keep forgetting the Tano part. I don't know what's wrong with me lately. I think it's the Simpson. I think I just have to do this shirt and just go into the bush, and that is it. But welcome back, guys. We have a very special guest tonight. It's not fluffy Gabriel Iglesias. I'm sorry to disappoint. He's more handsomer. He has hair, not like Fluffy, not like Gabriel. But this guy is a Star Wars collector. He has replicas of Star Wars because that's his name, Star Wars replicas. Yeah. But we're going to get to know him, see what he collects, talk some original trilogy, talk Star Wars in general. We might just talk about this shirt all day, like just getting pushed to a bush, That's cool. A big storyline right here. But before we start our Star Wars Tonight Show with Gabe, please subscribe down below to the YouTube channel, The Scevoli Tano Show, for more of me. Just me. Because Gabe's not going to be here. You're stuck with me. You're just stuck with me. It's sad. I have to say this at the beginning of every show because it's sad. It's all right. You're stuck with me. That's it. Gabe is just here for about an hour. Yeah. 45 minutes to an hour. He's gone.
I'm just here to watch you. It's like I just subscribed to your channel and I'm here to watch you.
Yeah, like that. It's like a froyo. It's like we're just go out for froyo, get some frozen yogurt and then send your ass home. That's what we're doing,
Who doesn't like froyo?
Yeah, who doesn't? I might get some at 11 o'clock at night here. I might go out after this. me and Gabe might hit the streets. You never know.
That's correct.
You never know.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. But Gabe, how are you, my friend?
Good, man. Thank you so much for having me on your show, man. Appreciate that.
I appreciate you and your time. Because time is very valuable in this world, Gabe. Remember that.
It's true. That
little wisdom. True. Little wisdom from the Padawan.
Thank you for that.
So I have to ask, because this is going to be my first question. Star Wars replicas.
No.
What are the replicas? And what are the collectibles you collect? Because I see a whole zombie invasion happening back there. If we ever get stuck in a zombie invasion, I'm coming to your house, Gabe.
Oh yeah, no, it's a whole thing.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Star Wars replicas. So basically, for anybody that doesn't know, basically the term replicas, especially with the Star Wars stuff, obviously means they're replicas of the props, right, that they used in the film. So everything in here is basically 1-to-1, right? Based on the filming models or props, right? And I mostly I want to say, because there's a lot of cool fan made stuff out there, and I get gifted some stuff, and there's just some amazing artists out there. But I mostly collect licensed prop replicas, and the license companies that hold the license from Lucasfilm actually have access to the Lucasfilm archives. And they go into the archives and they either use the original molds or digitally scan the original stuff. And then they make a limited edition number of replicas, right? So I've been collecting this stuff for almost 20 years now. So this is not an overnight thing. I've been lots of fights with the wife about how much I'm spending, lots of hiding boxes and, bribing the mail people to hide the boxes in a bush or something. But yeah, it's about 20 years worth of stuff in here.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. Now, I want to ask you, because I don't know, because I see that with the Ahsoka lightsaber, they came out with the replica. Is it worth to get the replica? Because how is the quality? How is I know it's not 1-of-1, the replica. I know that because you give a limited edition of 500. I know that's what I think that's what Slideshow does. I've seen it with Slideshow,
right?
About the replica Ahsoka Tano, because I was interested in it, but I was but it's at a 500. Is it 500 made, or is it how does that? If someone's out there trying to buy a replica of something, does it have to be a 1-to-1, or it can be a limited edition to 500 to 1,000?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, no, most of them are going to be limited edition. It's rare that you're going to find a 1-of-1. That's really rare, unless you're going, directly to the source and they're going to make something very unique for you. But usually these companies, like I said, they're Lucasfilm authorized companies, right? So they'll generally sell them, to the mass public. It's just a matter of jumping on early enough to be able to secure one, because just like anything limited edition, right? They sell out almost immediately, right? As soon as they go on sale, boom, everyone jumps in. So kind of to answer your question, like let's say the Ahsoka lightsabers, right? So as of right now, there's only 2 officially licensed prop replica Ahsoka sabers. Okay. Now, and again, I'm talking about replicas. There's a lot of like the NeoPixels, the Legacy sabers, and all that stuff. And I just want to be clear. So there's a huge distinction between those. So these are trying to replicate the screen use prop, right? The actual prop that the actors are using, versus like the Legacy sabers, NeoPixels. They're toys, right? They're made to play with. They're made, some people display them really nice, but ultimately they're made to handle. These are really made to just display as collectibles. So one of the companies that has the license to make prop replicas is called EFX Collectibles. And EFX Collectibles did a Clone Wars version of the lightsaber. And I don't know if you could kind of see.
You have it?
Yeah, I have it. And it's actually a director's edition. It's right there.
Oh my.
And
if any more of those, Gabe? Can you find me one, Gabe?
So those sold out really quick because it was a director's edition. So it came with Dave Filoni's autograph. So on the plaque, he autographed every single one. And again, it's a 1-to-1 replica of the Clone Wars lightsaber. Now, obviously, it's a cartoon, so the prop never existed. So what EFX Collectibles did is they used the digital files that Lucasfilm had to replicate that lightsaber. But now fast forward, they're coming out with the new sabers, the katana style from the show. And they digitally scan the katana style lightsabers that Rosario Dawson used in the show. And those are actually, I believe they might still be available for pre-order, although they are going to start shipping probably in the next month or so. But it's going to come with the dual set. They're beautiful. Again, these things, unfortunately, they're not very cheap. They sometimes range in the, hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars, just depending on the limited edition and, kind of what goes into it, right?
I gotta look out for the Ahsoka ones. I want because those are her Rebel ones. Like we could just say they're her Rebel ones,
Right.
They're her Rebel. It's the same thing that you'll get in Mandalorian and then her show, of course.
Right.
But yeah, I was looking at the Clone Wars ones and I saw it on eBay. That's how I know that they made them. And I was like, is it a 1-to-1? And it was like thousands of dollars because it's not out no more. So I was like, oh, come on. Any Ahsoka Tano Clone Wars fan that I'm a huge Clone Wars fan. So it's like, I need them. So Gabe, I might have to come to your house and rob you because I might, if you just don't let me, if I ever come to your house, just don't let me go buy those sabers. I'll just be like, gimme, like this, gimme.
You'll probably have to get in line. There's a lot of people waiting to rob this place.
We just have tickets outside my house.
We sell ski masks right outside. Right. It's a whole attraction thing.
It's like a museum. That's amazing that you have that. After the show, please, if you can, just show me what they look like because I would love to see them.
You want to see the Ahsoka one? Let me see if I could reach it.
If you can grab it, I want to see. Yeah.
Let me see if I could reach it because it is kind of tall. All right, here it comes. All right, man.
Now it comes in a case and everything too.
It comes with the stand and it comes with the base, but it doesn't come with the top.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
So the original plaque is this one with Dave Filoni's autograph, and I got this one signed by Ashley at a convention, but basically it's all metal. It's a replica. Like I said, it feels like a real lightsaber, right? And like I said, it does come with the little stand and the little base. Comes with the museum style.
Also, it comes with that. It just doesn't come with the Dave Filoni or the Ahsoka ones that are coming out from her show. They're not they don't have the plaques.
They will have the plaque. They will have the scan. They're just not going to have the autograph. So this one's specifically an autograph version.
Okay.
But they will in the future. So EFX Collectibles does a lot of signature editions. What they don't come with is the acrylic top. So you got to get that made separately. And I do it just obviously so it matches all my other lightsabers. But yeah, there it is. And this is a company called, like I said, EFX Collectibles.
That's amazing.
And they're really the only company that has the license to make, replicas.
Yeah.
And yeah, but they're a really cool company. They make helmets, lightsabers. I mean, they make pretty much anything that you would see in the film.
That's incredible. That's insane. Like, I'm in shock. Like, I'm gonna go buy myself the Rebels ones now. The one that you got in the Ahsoka show.
Those are available for pre-order right now. So, and that's the thing about replicas is that you do have to get in there early, right? Because it's a small community of replica collector or licensed replica collector. So it's small, but the editions are also small, right? Most of the time they're under 500. Generally, sometimes they're more. Back in the day when there was a company called Master Replicas, and they had the license for a long time, and they would come out with big editions like 2,000, 2,500. But those are the ones that if you go on eBay right now and type in Master Replicas lightsaber, I mean, and all those are all Master Replicas. They're crazy in the aftermarket. Like a lightsaber is like $3,000, $4,000. Like it's just ridiculous.
It is. Like that's what I was telling you, like about the eBay with the Ahsoka Clone Wars. Like I didn't know it was real or not because you never know really if it's real or not. They just can put that and say, "Oh, $2,000 for the Dave Filoni." Like, "Oh, he signed it," and it's really not signed.
Right.
You have to really. And I'm familiar with them, so thank you for confirming that they're a valuable source to get the replica.
Yeah. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I even started my social media channels, right? Like my YouTube channel. When I first started collecting this stuff, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of references out there, especially if you're buying stuff in the aftermarket, right? Like just from a collector or something. I didn't know like what was legit. What did it come with? Was it missing something, right? So then what I decided to do is that every time I would get something new, I would just do an unboxing and post it on YouTube just to help collectors in the future going, okay, like there's a certificate of authenticity. It comes with the base, the case, the top, and every single one is a little bit different. So that's why I started my YouTube channel. And then it kind of just grew from there. And then, I've been doing YouTube for a long time. And then, obviously Instagram and TikTok. But my goal is educating people on this stuff because, like I said, it's a lot of money. It's a big investment. And there wasn't a lot out there to make me feel comfortable sometimes to buy something. So I wanted to be that person,
Now your job for me is to see if you can get me my hand on one of those Clone Wars ones, Gabe.
Those are hard. Those are tough to find. Yeah, those are very sought after.
And what is the limited edition? 500?
It's no, I think it's a little bit less. I think it's like a weird 360 something.
Oh wow.
574. That was weird. That's a weird number.
That's a weird number. I would just say six. You should just do 600 at that point. Like you're almost there.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
That's our job now, Gabe, to go hunting for for that lightsaber.
Yeah, I'm telling you that a lot of people have been hunting for that one. That one's definitely been, especially once the show came out, and more recently that lightsaber's been super.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite lightsaber. Like I love her katanas. Don't get me wrong. I love her Rebels ones, but I really like her Clone Wars. Yeah. Especially, I'm surprised there's not two. There's only one of them there. I'm really surprised they didn't do like when Anakin says, "I upgraded them for you," and she turns into blue and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have done the duel, but
hey, you never know. That might be next.
Maybe. I hope so. That'd be great.
I'm getting that one, Gabe. Don't worry. I'm sitting in line for that one.
There you go.
I need that one. But my next question to you, Gabe, is so we were talking about the original trilogy before we started the show.
No.
Tell us about that, about the original trilogy, because now I know the Phantom Menace is not in the original trilogy, but like we have that Phantom Menace, the 25th year anniversary coming up. Now, have you seen these movies in the theaters, like Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back? Have you seen them? How old were you? Like those kind of things. Can you talk to us a little about that?
Yeah. I actually have a really interesting Star Wars story, right? Like, so I was actually born and raised in Mexico, and when I was living in Mexico, I got to see Return of the Jedi in the movie theaters, just because that's the only one that I was born when it came out. But after that, basically, you could only rent the movies, right? If you wanted to watch them, you'd have to rent them. And my parents would always ask, like, because there's two versions, right? In Mexico, you'd either get the dubbed version, right, where all the actors' voices are dubbed, or you'd get the subtitled version, right? And as a little kid, I always asked for the subtitle version because I wanted to hear their real voices and like what they actually said. So I would memorize the lines, and I would memorize all these, even though I didn't speak English. I just naturally memorized the lines. So when we moved to the United States, the only English I spoke were Star Wars lines, which was kind of cool because that was my in, I guess, with friends and stuff. Because even though I couldn't speak English, I could recite the whole like end scene of Return of the Jedi with the Emperor and Luke and Darth Vader. So that's the only one that I saw in the movie theaters when it first came out. And I was a little kid. But then later, when the special editions came out, I got to see all those in the movie theater, and that was great. And then when the prequels came out, I actually was working. It was my first part-time job in high school, and I was working at a movie theater when that movie came out, when episode 1 came out. And I got to see it before it got released to everybody because I was working at the theater. So we had a special screening for the employees, and it was just one of those things that like I had such high expectations because again, there hadn't been a Star Wars movie for, what years, 15 years, right? Something like that. And I was just so hyped up. Like, oh my God, I got, Taco Bell toys, Pepsi, there was a huge merchandise, just warfare. Like everyone wanted, episode 1 stuff. And then I went to go see it in the movie theaters, and I was confused when I got out because I was like, wait a second, like, why didn't I like this? Like I was one of those guys, right? I was one of those ones that I was just like, I'm not understanding, like, why, like, this is Star Wars. I'm supposed to like it. Why didn't I like it? And I watched that movie maybe like, I'd probably say at least 20 times in the theater because again, I got it in for free because I was working there. And it was just one of those things that I couldn't get into it. And I think what it was is that it was really geared towards a younger crowd, right? It was really just like the originals, right? It was made for, the 8 to 12 year olds, right? And I was already almost an adult. So I wasn't the biggest prequel fan. Now, episode 3, that's a different story. When that came out, I was just like, oh my God, I loved it. It was so great. But I didn't get to appreciate the prequels until I watched Clone Wars a few years ago. Once I watched Clone Wars, I was like, all right, now I love the prequels because now you get all this backstory, you get all this, character development. So, yeah.
The best character development in that. Woohoo!
It really is. I mean,
Really
Darth Maul went from being like for me, just like a whatever character because like he was in it for, a few minutes, right? To like being one of my favorite characters. Ahsoka Tano, same thing. She went from being, honestly, to me, a nobody because I didn't know
her.
Ahsoka, to being literally one of my favorite characters. Like I love Ahsoka now. Like it's freaking awesome.
We just love her so much, Gabe. We can't take it.
I do. You can't deny it, man. Like, and it's funny because I a lot of the older collectors and the old, the original trilogy boomers like myself, we tend to kind of hate a little bit on the, on the cartoons and all that stuff. But once I watched them, I was like, oh my God, I became like,
and that's what, and
man,
like one of my friends, we were talking about it, and she was like, Chris, like, I don't understand you. I was like, what do you mean you don't understand me? I go, well, a lot of people don't, but what do you don't understand me about? She was like, that you love Star Wars and you love Ahsoka, but you like it in animation. Like, you don't like it live action. Like, we would think like the live action you would love because it's really her. Like, she's in the costume, she's in the makeup, she's her, she's Ahsoka. And I was like, well, it's two difference. It's a difference. Like, I don't bash Rosario. She plays a great Ahsoka Tano, don't get me wrong. But Ashley will always be like my Ahsoka. She will always be, because that's who I grew up with. That's who I learned to love. And I met Ashley, and she's amazing. She's the sweetest maybe human in life. Wow. And I answer that because I was like, well, you have to understand too, like, it's a different time. Like, now we're finally getting Ahsoka in live action. Like, for how many years we had her in animation, Right. We had her since 2005 or 6 the movie came out, or 7. Yeah. And then the show followed right after that for like 10 years. And then went off air because it got canceled, and then brought back for season 7 a couple years ago. And now we get Rebels in between that, and we get Ahsoka alive. We don't know where she's going. How did she survive Order 66? Yeah. And then we get Tales of the Jedi, and then we'll probably get more of her stories sooner or later in that prequel Empire Rebels era, Yeah. And now we get her own show in season 1 and season 2, you know. I might not be the biggest live action fan out there, but I'm going to watch the show because that's my character.
Yeah. I mean, besides Darth Vader or like Anakin, she's probably the most developed character in Star Wars lore, right? I mean, we've seen her from a child all the way to older woman, right? Like Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka, she's supposed to be older, right? So like, it's kind of it's interesting. And what sold her to me is like why she became my favorite character, or one of my favorite characters, is it literally the way, like, again, how she walked away from the Jedi Order, like that right there, like I still get chills. Like the whole, like, when she walks away, it's just like, oh man, she's awesome. And the whole, like, I'm no Jedi. I'm like, that's like my favorite line from probably any Star Wars content. Like, so awesome.
And then later on, she becomes a Jedi again after all those years saying that line.
I know, right?
Yeah, but the one thing about like Ahsoka, like you're definitely right on the character development, because we don't get that. We don't get from when you're a teenager all the way. Like, maybe they can do that with Omega from Bad Batch, because it's leading maybe up to that, but we don't know. The world may never know what happens in these last 2 episodes, you know. But like, that's what they could do with Omega, have her develop, because we see her as this little girl clone that she's probably like 12, 13. Mm-hmm. You know, we got Ahsoka, and even Captain Rex, we could say he's a well-developed character, because we got some of his story in the prequels and the Clone Wars and Rebels, and we getting in Bad Batch a little, and I hope they have another show of Captain Rex, you know, because he's my favorite clone, and I hope they come out with replicas of him. Have they came out with any replicas or no?
No, not officially licensed. The closest thing is the Hasbro Black Series helmet, which is life size. I mean, they're cool. They're close enough. But yeah, I guess the only company that I could see them making a helmet would be a company called De Novo, and they have the license for costuming and for like helmets and stuff, or EFX Collectibles. But I guess we'd have to see. I don't know.
Maybe the blaster, probably. I think they'll make the blaster.
That'd be cool if they did the blaster. I think it would just have to be more prominent. Actually, you know what? My understanding is that Disney frowns upon like blasters now for replicas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of unlikely that they'll do the blasters. But the helmet, I think the helmet is probably very likely it's just a matter of which company decides to do it, and they got to do it right, because that's a helmet that's like, I don't know, man. They gotta do that one very nice.
Because Captain Rex, like, you could see this, like, I have the Hasbro one here, but it's like you have to have like the marks, you gotta have the things and everything for Captain Rex, because he's a unique Star Wars character. A lot of people love him, so do justice over there. Do justice over there.
Exactly.
But my next question to you, Gabe, is, so you're an original trilogy guy.
Yeah.
So in the original trilogy, it could be throughout Star Wars, what is your favorite scene in Star Wars? And why do you like it so much, the scene?
Ooh, okay. That's a good one. I mean, the full scene, like my favorite scene that I could sit there and just watch over and over again, is usually going to be like the Emperor, the last scene in with the Emperor and Luke and Vader. I just absolutely love that. But I think if you put together like all his scenes, I'm a huge Tarkin fan. Like, Tarkin is probably my favorite character out of all of Star Wars, which is a rare thing, right? Because not everyone likes Tarkin. In fact, I even got him tattooed. Like, I got him tattooed on my arm. And Tarkin is one of those characters that have double meaning for me. One, because he's badass. Like, especially like in the original trilogy, right? Like in the first movie, he's the boss. It's not Vader. Like, Vader is kind of his subordinate. Yeah. Tarkin checks him, right? Remember, like, he's like choking one of the generals, and Tarkin's like, hey, release him. Like, he straight up talks to him like a dog, and like Darth Vader's like, okay, as you wish. And I know later down the line we understand that there's a mutual respect thing going on, obviously, because they fought together, right? I'm assuming, right? That's what it would be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, back then we didn't know that. So back then I saw him as like the boss. Like, to me, he was like the Emperor, right? And that's number one. That's why I like him in Star Wars. But number two is because I'm also a big like B movie, like sci-fi horror movie fan. And Peter Cushing is like a god in those old B movies. He came out in a bunch of the Hammer films, which he played like, Dracula. He played, all of these monsters, Van Helsing. I mean, he was just really involved. Him and Christopher Lee, actually. And I don't know if you knew that, but they were best friends.
Yes.
You did, yeah. And Christopher Lee was also in a bunch of those Hammer films. So it's kind of cool because Christopher Lee is probably probably top 3 character for the same reason, because he's awesome in Star Wars as Count Dooku, but also because I really, really like, not only, he played Scaramanga in the James Bond movie, like the Man with the Golden Gun, which I love James Bond films, but he was also in a bunch of those Hammer films. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That because like with Tarkin. So what do you think of him in the animation form? You like him what Steven Stanton is doing, because he's amazing. He voices everybody, like, almost in Star Wars, just like D. Bradley Baker. What do you think he's doing a great job at doing Tarkin?
I think so. Yeah. No, I mean, he's kept that spirit, the same, like, kind of, I don't know, the delivery that Peter Cushing had, through Tarkin. I definitely think he kept it up. I think the only little, I guess, and I liked it, but I really wish that in Rogue One they would have just waited, or I don't know. The CGI is a little too obvious. I hope they go back and kind of soften it up a little bit.
Refake it.
Yeah, like a deep fake, like Mandalorian for Luke. That would be great. But yeah, that was my only complaint from, new Tarkin stuff.
Now, do you think we'll get more Tarkin stuff?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, in the Bad Batch, right? I mean, we're already, right? Like, we hear him was he actually in the last episode or 2 episodes ago?
A couple episodes ago.
Yeah, right. You hear him, and was he actually in it? I don't even remember. Or was it just his voice?
I think it just was his voice.
I think it was just his voice. Yeah, but I'm sure we're gonna see him
eventually. Yes.
Oh yeah.
And we're probably going to see him probably in the Tales of the Empire too. Yeah. You know, maybe just a little sneak around. You know. Yeah. But there's so much story with Tarkin because we don't really talk about him on my show because no one's really mentioned him. You know, he's not everybody's favorite character. Yeah. So, with Tarkin, I always never liked him because how he was just so rude. Like, you're just so rude. Like, shut up. Like, we're saving your ass and you're just being rude. You're like a mother-in-law that we don't want, but you're just there because we have to deal with you. You know? No. And like, it's like, and I didn't like him because he casted away Ahsoka. Like, he didn't believe Ahsoka. And I'm like, bro, like, you must feel dumb after, like, she wasn't accused, but you don't really care. Right. So it's like, it's a lose-win with you. But I would love to see Tarkin before everything. How did he get? Because you don't wake up to be, excuse my language, a dick every day. It's not like Mace Windu. Like, Mace Windu, like, I understand his story. I understand why the way he was. Because you read the books, you read the comics, you get into the mind of Mace Windu. You know what led him to that point into the Sith, and even with Ahsoka, like, oh, matters are not here for you, citizen. You know, like, you're just a citizen. But, like, you understand, like, Tarkin, we really don't understand his character. Right. You know, yes, he's like the Admiral Tarkin. You know, he's the highest rank in the Imperial Empire Senate. You know, but how did he lead up to that? You know, what was his role in playing? Because he never liked the Jedi. He never did. Nope. It was all folks and fairy tales to him, like, oh, they're not really powerful, you know. Yeah. We can get rid of them, you know. And he was never a big fan of clones either, you know. So of course that was the right idea for Palpatine to have him because he didn't like either side. Yeah. You know, he was just for himself, if I could say that. Yeah. But I would love a story with Tarkin, and I think we should get something with the Empire within that resource, you know, show Darth Vader, show how he was with his Imperial officers. Was it all like giggles? Probably not, but we would love to see Tarkin's story more. And then he gets killed in the Death Star, but still, like, lead us up into that. Right. You know what I mean? Like, lead us up into how we got Admiral. You know, like with Thrawn. Like, Thrawn isn't a good example. Right. You know, we get the books to understand how he went to Grand Admiral, and we're getting more story with him and Ahsoka and Tales of the Empire, you know. But I hope they come out with more Tarkin stuff. Yeah. Like I said, we not just with Tarkin, but other characters in Star Wars. We need their character development to understand, like, why are they that evil or why are they good? But what happened there? What's their story like? You know?
Yeah. No. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I wish they. Now, I think Tarkin, there might be a couple books out there, you know, going back and telling his story a little bit more. I'm just not familiar with it. I haven't read the books, but yeah, I would love to see something, you know, either animated or live action, you know, to show a little bit of his story. Yeah, like Thrawn. I think that's right on. I think Thrawn is also becoming one of my favorite characters. You can kind of see it. You could see a pattern here, right? Like, I think it's, I like the Empire stuff. That's most of my collection. If you kind of notice,
Empire,
it's mostly Empire helmets. They're all mostly Imperial helmets. You can see right there, like, I have the evolution there. So phase 1, phase 2, all the way to the new ones.
Now, are those all replicas?
Yeah. So all of these are, you know, officially licensed replicas. There's some that are fan made, like that Death Star gunner is a fan made one. There's a couple of them here and there, but that's just because the licensed companies have never made one. So, and I was like, man, I love that design, the gunner. So
that's it.
Had to have it.
Yeah, I would have to have it if it's a replica. I would have to have it. So we were talking earlier, and you mentioned your favorite characters.
Yeah.
Are those your favorite characters? Count Dooku, like you mentioned, Tarkin is your ultimate favorite character. Now I'm going to ask you this. So I want you to name your 3 top favorite characters, and I want you to also answer how do you connect to those characters? Because they're not good characters. And I'm not saying they're not good, meaning like you suck at picking characters. Like, what drew your attention on to Tarkin or Count Dooku or Vader? Like, what made you, okay, these characters are like my ultimate favorite?
Yeah. I think it's well, first I'll tell you my top 3 characters. I'd have to say number 1 is Tarkin. Number 2 is the Emperor.
Oh,
the Emperor Palpatine's probably my second favorite character, and the third one, I'd probably say it kind of goes back and forth right now with Count Dooku and Thrawn.
I love Thrawn. I'm Team Thrawn all the way.
Yeah, and what I love about Thrawn is that he's a collector.
He is.
Like he has like all these relics that he's, from his
he hides in his pocket, just gets it out of nowhere.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of cool. But I think what drew me to them, especially like, as a kid, is like the mystery behind them, right? It's like we kind of know why Darth Vader's scary in A New Hope. Like, we know, like, he has a lightsaber, he has the Force and all that. But like Tarkin is also just as scary. Like, he's like, especially when he's interacting with like Princess Leia, and he's just like, he's ruthless. And it was that mystery behind it. Like, why? Like, why is he like so tough? But again, it also ties into my personal liking of Peter Cushing, right? Because of my other fandom, right? Of the horror movies. So I think that's a big reason why. Now the Emperor, I think wasn't my favorite character growing up, but I think kind of once I started tying everything from like the prequels all the way up, he became one of my favorite characters because of kind of like just, again, how he kind of tricked everybody. Like, again, it's the mystery of it, right? It's the mystique of that character that I was really drawn to, because again, he was able to, he tricked everyone in the prequels, and then in the sequels, I mean, in the original trilogy, he's just the boss, right? He's just like, in charge of everything. And then obviously in the sequels, he came back.
That wrinkly old man just doesn't know how to die. That wrinkly old man.
Right. Well, but then now we're getting more into him, like, his psyche, right? Especially with Bad Batch, right? He's trying to create a clone, I'm sure, right? That's what is it? Project I suck at Star Wars names. Yeah. So I can't say, but it is that one. I can't say it, but it is. Right. So, I'm assuming, right? We haven't seen the whole season, but I'm assuming it's a project to try to clone the Emperor so he can live forever, right? And in fact, that story goes back to like, Dark Empire and the comics, the Dark Horse comics. And that was, for me growing up, that was always a thing. Like, I always knew that, that the Emperor was going to figure out how to clone himself, and that he was going to come back. And because they introduced that in the comics, in the early 90s. And then Thrawn, like I said, he's recently just become one of my favorite characters. I think because of the cartoons and because of Ahsoka, and again, it's the approach, right? Like, they're very,
because, like, I don't know if you could agree with me on this, but when Thrawn talks, I listen.
No.
Like if he tells me, Chris, jump off the cliff, yes, Thrawn, I'm going now. Can you come with me so I can hold you? Like, I listen to my dad. I listen to him.
Yeah. And you know what too? They're one of the, like, especially I guess Thrawn and Tarkin, they're, for me, the more believable characters. Like, those characters would exist in real life. Like they would be some historical figure in like some, wars at some point. Like I would believe that they existed, right? And maybe that's what it is too that makes them scarier, is that they
could be real people.
They could be real, like in real life right now, right? Like some of the bigger, like Jabba the Hutt and stuff, like you're not going to see Jabba the Hutt walking around, or crawling around. But Tarkin, I mean, there could definitely be some military general out there that's like super scary like that, right? So.
And even with Thrawn, like, I don't know if you could agree with me on this also, that he's like a Sherlock Holmes type. Like he's like you could say he's even like James Bond in some sense. He's very intelligent. He's very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need the Force to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes him like scary too. It's like he would be like a president of the United States. Like, you're gonna bomb us? No, don't worry. Something's coming.
Yeah.
But you can bomb us. You can blow us all up right now. But there's gonna be repercussions of that bombing when I get done with you.
Right.
And I love how Thrawn, like, he takes his losses and he takes his victories.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's gonna get another shot. Yeah, this is a minor loss. We'll get over it. No. And then he comes right back and just demolishes you.
Yeah. Yeah.
With his big brain in there.
And again, I think you hit it right on the head. Like, it's the fact that he's scary and he doesn't have any powers. He doesn't have the Force. He doesn't have these special weapons or lightsabers or blasters or anything. It's just like, he's just like brilliant, right? Like, he's really just like smart. It's almost like, I don't know if have you ever seen that Quentin Tarantino movie, Inglourious Bastards?
Oh yeah.
So remember Christoph, what's his name?
I don't remember the movie though. I've seen it, but I don't remember like the scenes.
So yeah, one of the generals. He's very like that. He's very like soft spoken, but very smart. Like he understands like, hey, you're trying to play me here. Like, it's not gonna work, but he plays along with it. And I feel like Thrawn's kind of the same way,
He is. He's my father. He's secretly Scevoli Tano's dad. He's my father. He's secretly. So my next question, I usually ask this towards the end of the show, which we're coming to a close soon.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you this because this takes more time to answer. Yeah. So if George Lucas called you up and said, "Hey, Gabe, Star Wars Replicas, big fan. All right, we're going to make a project. Mm-hmm. We're going to make it could be live action or animation. What is your Star Wars dream project to be made?"
Ooh.
It could be any of your characters. It could be a show that we have seen before, but more to it. Or you can do a lot. You can do anything you want. It's your show. George Lucas called you and said, "Gabe, you're the only person that could do this. If you give Chris the Clone Wars Legacy Ahsoka Tano lightsaber that's hanging up in your wall, you got to give it to him first. Just offering it." But what if he called you? What would your dream idea Star Wars project? And he will produce it for you. It will be on Disney Plus. What is your dream project in Star Wars?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would probably say, and it's probably not it's not going to be like a popular opinion, but I would say like a military style, like a military movie style, film about it, like we just talked about like even just like Tarkin and Thrawn and like, these high-end generals and kind of how they moved up into power. I think that would be great. Not a lot of like Force use. It's almost giving like Andor vibes. You know what I mean? Like where it's very more story driven. It's really kind of on the slower end, but you're learning about these characters. I think that would be great to kind of tie in everything, right? Because then you'll be able to tie in all the way back to the prequels, because it would probably have to take place during
that
era, right? Like the Clone Wars and that era, right? And then it would tie in the original trilogy, because then we would know about Tarkin and some of these other generals that are always sitting around the table. and then obviously it would tie, Thrawn and all that. I think that would be my dream project. The other project would be something to, I don't know, man, to fix Luke Skywalker's story. That'd be the other thing. But again, I don't want to get into that. But just somehow to make sense of the last movie, with or not the last one, the Last Jedi, and Luke Skywalker's death. To try to just
to understand it more,
understand that, like, or at least, make it a little bit better.
No, I understand. I'm not a big fan of the sequel, so
no.
I'm not a big fan. I think they rushed it all and stuff like that, but we won't get into that. But yeah, it's like a Lifetime movie, we could say, like that kind of setup, like a drama filled, like what goes behind the scenes of the military operations. Who are the other military generals there? We know there's more admirals, not just Tarkin and Thrawn. Right. I don't know if you know him because you haven't read the books, but you probably have. Eli Vanto.
No, I'm not.
He's like Thrawn's. He's like Thrawn's second in command. Really, okay. It's like really like that. I've not finished the Thrawn books either, but I know who that is.
Yeah.
I would love to see him in a show and stuff like that because he's such a big part of Thrawn's story. Even Admiral Arlani. That's Thrawn's other like Chiss ascendancy person. I would love to see them in an animation or live action, or
like a Game of Thrones style show, right? Where like you're seeing kind of all the different sides and
the different families, different houses. Like if they do, like my dream project is a Thrawn animation show from the book all the way into Rebels. Because then we get what happened with Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. We still want that story, of course. What happened on Peridia with Ezra and Thrawn? We want that, of course.
Right.
But I would love an animation show with Thrawn. Just ascendancy involved, everything. Do the books, throw it in animation, but copy the books because you already wrote the books. And then lead us up into Rebels. I would love that.
Yeah, that would be great too. Yeah.
But I wouldn't want the ending to be them killing Thrawn off when Jon Snow shanks Daenerys. She got killed. But don't get me involved in that. This is a whole nother episode that we could do. A Game of Thrones finale episode. Because that was no finale, people. That was disgusting.
That was.
But we're not going to get into that here. Because I will really get personally. I will get personal. Because I love that. I love that show. That show was my favorite show. When that ending happened, I got rid of everything. I had a whole room filled with Game of Thrones. I got rid of everything because I could not deal with. I still can't deal with that. Like every time someone brings up, nope, don't. If you want to watch it, watch 1 through 4, and then 5, 6, 7, or 8, or maybe 5 is part of the book. Is the books, and then 6, 7, 8 are like just them doing
whatever they want to,
writing down. Okay, we could do that. We could do this.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of. I mean, it really kind of is like the sequels, like a little bit, right? I mean, like they just kind of took creative freedom and they're like, well, let's just make some stuff up, let's.
Yeah, I think we could make this movie. It's The Last Jedi, but really not The Last Jedi because there's still Jedi out there. But
no one will notice. No one will notice that Starbucks cup, on the.
Yeah, like in the sitting there next to Daenerys. Like, who cares, Yeah. And then take it out after the episode airs because now you look like idiots. Now Damn it. But Gabe. One final question before we head out. Yep. So for anybody out there that's watching this and that wants to collect things and wants to start a YouTube, what is the one piece of advice you can give that young girl, young boy that's starting out to be a Star Wars, Marvel, Game of Thrones, anything they really want? What is that one piece of advice that you could tell me and the world out there?
Well, I mean, as most collectors know, it's a slippery slope, right? When you start collecting, especially like big franchises like Star Wars, right? There's so much stuff, there's so much merchandise. So I always say, collect what has meaning to you, right? Really kind of narrow it down to something that really means something, so that when you look at it, whether it's on display or whatever, when you look at it, it reminds you of something, or it gives you a certain feeling, and that'll help kind of narrow your collection, and it'll make something that you truly love, right? Because I think that's the biggest problem with collectors, is that a lot of collectors collect just to collect, right? And then all of a sudden their collection just looks like a big, cluttered, just pile of Star Wars stuff, right? And it's always, for me, it's always better to focus on something you really like, make your displays nice, that you're going to enjoy them when you look at them, and like actually you could sit there and enjoy it. Like I come in my Star Wars room all the time, and I could actually just like sit here and still enjoy it, right? So collect what makes you happy, collect what gives you a certain feeling, and display it nicely. I'm a big fan of displaying stuff really nice, and giving it the respect that it deserves, because you bought the piece for a reason, because it means something to you. So you want to give it that respect. So that's why, like with my collection room, although it's getting packed in here, it's getting to that point, but each piece has its own life. It's usually very, very focused, because I want to give it that respect, right? So yeah, collect. That's my piece of advice. Collect what you love. And
like I collect like the movie posters, but not the live action posters. I collect like the animation, like the Clone Wars,
nice. Yeah,
Bad Batch. Like I collect everything. Like I'm an animation person.
Yeah.
So
See,
I collect it. I really collect everything animation. Ahsoka, like Rex is my favorite clone. Thrawn, of course.
Yeah.
Like my favorite character. Like Ahsoka, I collect a lot of Anakin. Like I have a lot of Ahsoka stuff, but I need to like build it for like Anakin, Clone Wars Anakin, like stuff like that, because those are my peoples, like peoples. But yeah, like it makes me happy. Like I look at it sometimes and I go, they just look so beautiful there. I wish you guys were real. We could like have like a tea party or something, like
with Thrawn, Thrawn and Ahsoka. Like, here you go.
Like, yeah. So Thrawn, tell us more about how you became blue, and then I'll ask Ahsoka, how did you become orange? And then we'll see what happens from there. But Gabe, thank you so much for coming on the Scevoli Tano Tonight Show, Gabe. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome, Gabe. Anytime. You're always welcome on my show. Always welcome. But before we go, where can everybody find you on the social medias?
Yeah. You can find me pretty much everywhere on all social media as Star Wars Replicas. YouTube, TikTok. I just recently changed it because there's some issues with the word replicas on TikTok for some reason. So on TikTok, it's Gabe's Empire Archive, or just Empire Archive. But on Instagram, it's Star Wars Replicas.
Awesome. Yeah. I will put all the links in the bio to follow Gabe. Go support him. He's an amazing collector. And he's going to give me the Ahsoka Tano lightsaber. I don't know if you heard him on the show say that, but I heard him secretly. But Gabe, again, thank you so much for joining me on the Scevoli Tano Tonight Show. Do keep doing big things. You're doing great. And when I'm in the California area or wherever you are, I will be coming to your house, knocking deeply. Just keep me away. Like, just keep me in a box, like crate, like a dog crate, and I'll just look through the mirror and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, man. Yeah.
But thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you guys subscribe down below to the YouTube channel, The Scevoli Tano Show. Be kind to one another, guys, and may the force be with you, my friends. Always. Bye.
In my life, when you find people who need your help, you help them, no matter what.